Today we will review the critical incident reporting process at Genesee Health System. This process is a core part of risk management and each of you play a vital role. The Risk Office has adopted a simple mantra. As providers of care, we can best guide ourselves in various situations by asking the following 3 questions. In this situation, what is the right thing to do? There are multiple theories, standards, best practices, promising practices, evidence-based practices, and clinical pathways to guide us in a given situation or during a course of treatment. Did we consider the possible scope of interventions that were available to us? Did we do the right thing? Did we respond? Did we select and apply the suitable intervention to the situation? Did we do the right thing right? Did we carry out the intervention correctly? Or was there a flaw in the application of the intervention? Of the universe of possible events reaching the Risk Office, all could be termed as adverse events. All are generally untoward, undesirable, and unanticipated. Our agency is required to report on a smaller subset of further defined events, the critical incidents and the sentinel events. A critical incident is a problem or situation that has the potential for undesirable effects to the consumer. A sentinel event is an unexpected occurrence involving death or serious physical or psychological injury, or the risk thereof. Serious injury specifically includes the loss of limb or function. Any injury or death that occurs from the use of behavioral interventions is also considered a sentinel event. As the diagram attempts to illustrate, all sentinel events are also critical incidents, but not all critical incidents are sentinel events. Both are adverse events. The Risk Office typically uses a root cause analysis, or RCA, to determine the cause of a sentinel event. An RCA is effective in the development of processes to prevent future occurrences of the undesired event. The sentinel event definition includes the phrase, the risk thereof, which refers to a category of events termed near misses. A near miss is an event or situation that could have resulted in accident, injury, or illness, but did not, either by chance or through timely intervention. The Risk Office uses failure mode and effects analyses to address several types of near misses. This process is engaged after a near miss, but before any harm occurs. It focuses on detection of system weaknesses to prevent serious harm from ever occurring. How do I report? You must report events electronically. We have 2 types of incident reporting forms, the Network Critical Incident Report Form and the Physical Management Law Enforcement Contact Report Form. Both forms are located together. Directly operated providers access the reports via the agency intranet under the Forms tab. Contractual providers' version of the form is found on the Online Provider Service Center, OPSC, under the CI Form tab. Both the Critical Incident Policy and the Client Death Reporting Policy are found in the GHS Policy Manual. What should I report? This slide contains the current reporting requirements for GHS. Remember to only complete the Critical Incident Report form for the categories listed and for abuse neglect concerns. Call the Clinical Risk Office and report near misses. Call the Recipient Rights Office and the Clinical Risk Office and report any other significant event that concerns health and safety. For minor issues, document in the clinical record or the home record. Do not use the Critical Incident Report form to document these. Never neglect to complete a Critical Incident Report form if you suspect abuse neglect. You should never indicate in the medical record that a Critical Incident Report, or CIR, was completed. You should never duplicate an incident report. And please be advised that reporting critical incidents does not relieve you or your agency from other forms of mandated reporting, like reports to licensing, Child Protective Services, or Adult Protective Services. As a reminder, with the exception of crisis plans, physical management or law enforcement contacts should not be included as a component of a behavioral treatment plan or otherwise placed in the individual plan of service. Physical management can only be used in an emergency basis when the situation places the individual or others at imminent risk of serious physical harm. Physical management involving prone immobilization of an individual for behavioral control purposes is prohibited under any circumstances, including emergencies. If you have to use a physical management technique in an emergency, it must be reported on the Network Physical Management and Law Enforcement Contact Report. An electronic critical incident report would only be completed if the individual that was physically managed sustained an injury which required emergency medical treatment or an injury which required hospitalization. If you believe that physical management is being used in an abusive manner, the abuse neglect category on the critical incident report may be more suitable. The details of the event will guide your selection of category. A law enforcement contact is reportable when staff have contacted police to intervene with an individual during a behavioral crisis situation. If you have to call 911 for police assistance with a consumer experiencing a behavioral crisis, it must be reported on the Network Physical Management and Law Enforcement Contact Report. You can find the Network Physical Management and Law Enforcement Contact Report in the same location as the Network Critical Incident Report. The events listed here do not require completion of a critical incident report, though some of these categories were previously reportable. Some of you are completing incident reports where you do not need to. Please don't try to make an event fit one of the categories. For any significant health and/or safety issue that you feel you need to report that does not have a category on the critical incident report and is underaddressed or unaddressed by the plan of care, please contact the Recipient Rights Office or Clinical Risk Office. We'll take your report via phone. Critical incident reporting can be reduced to a series of questions. For example, what was the incident? What led up to the incident? What did you do to help the consumer situation at the time of the incident? What corrections have been put in place to prevent future occurrences? Who did the event involve? Who did you involve or report to? Where did it occur? When did the event occur? Place, date, time? How serious was the incident? How can it be prevented from happening again? How is the consumer doing now? Why did the event or incident happen? When these questions are answered for all events and near misses, patterns often emerge and preventable causes are often discovered. The critical incident form prompts you for the needed information. It helps everyone if you complete the form in its entirety. The remaining questions relate to how you, as a staff person, handle the process of reporting. Who is responsible to report? The primary responsibility rests with the person or program with direct observation of the incident or the person or program with the most accurate factual information. Staff are responsible to report if they observe the event, receive information about the event, or are involved in the event. However, everyone aware of the incident is responsible to be sure that the task is completed. Only one critical incident reporting form needs to be completed per incident, per consumer, but if there is considerable disagreement about what occurred, each party should complete their own critical incident reporting form. How do I complete the form? Critical incident reports are considered highly sensitive agency risk management documents and must be handled as such. Write legibly and concisely. Write as if you might have to explain your documentation in a court of law someday. Present the facts only. Do not editorialize, assign blame, or indict others. The critical incident report process is an important protective mechanism for the consumers in our network. Again, you should never make reference to completing an incident report in the clinical record, and you should never make a copy of an incident report. When is the submission of the report required? If staff determine a possible abuse neglect concern is present, staff must make an immediate verbal report to ORR and complete an electronic critical incident report by the end of the workday. If staff determine that no possible abuse neglect concern is present, then staff must complete the critical incident report by the end of the workday. If the event occurs on a weekend or a holiday, a verbal report is still made immediately by utilizing the ORR voicemail, and the electronic CIR is due the first business day following first knowledge of the incident. It is very important that each one of us is extremely careful when communicating consumer information. This is particularly true when using email, voicemail, fax, interoffice, and public mail. Please remember that the GHS policy on confidentiality states that client information shall be limited to those staff that have a need to know that specific information to perform their assigned job duties. Do not breach confidentiality by sharing information outside of the network without a release of information. This is one of the reasons why we do not allow the copying of a critical incident form. The printed document makes the information more available. In closing, do not underestimate the importance of your individual role in caring for vulnerable individuals. Never lose sight of the significance of your contribution to the well-being of an individual human life. If a sentinel event occurs, please call the Clinical Risk Office immediately and inform us, in addition to completing the Critical Incident Report and notifying the Office of Recipient Rights. Thank you.